Have you ever wondered how living alone in your golden years can transform your life for the better? Many people fear solitude as they age. But what if I told you that this stage of life could be the most empowering and enriching chapter yet? In this video, we will explore the unexpected benefits of living alone, from rediscovering your passions to building deeper connections with others. Stay with us until the end as we dive into inspiring stories from individuals like Margaret, who found solace in gardening, and John, who redefined his mornings. Discover how self-reliance can boost your confidence, and learn practical tips for embracing creativity in your cooking. We'll also discuss the importance of mindfulness, gratitude, and creating a living space that truly reflects who you are. By the end of this video, you'll not only gain valuable insights into making the most of your time alone, but you'll also find encouragement to celebrate your independence and explore new interests. Join us on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Let's turn the fear of loneliness into a celebration of freedom. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Reconnecting with ourselves. In our fast-paced world, we're often swept up by responsibilities, routines, and the constant demands of relationships, work, and family. With so many voices around us, it's easy to lose touch with the most important one, our own. For those who live alone, this solitude can become a powerful invitation to reconnect with the self in ways that may have seemed impossible or even unimaginable before. In this space of quiet, stripped of distractions and external expectations, a journey begins. A journey toward rediscovering passions, nurturing forgotten dreams, and learning to truly listen to oneself. Margaret's story is a beautiful example of this transformation. At 65, Margaret found herself in a place she'd never anticipated. Her husband, her companion of nearly 4 decades, had passed away, leaving a profound void in her life. 4 years, she'd been dedicated to their life together, supporting him, sharing routines, and creating memories. When he was gone, so was the rhythm of her days. She moved into a small apartment, hoping to find a fresh start, but what she found instead was a silence that felt almost suffocating. The stillness was everywhere, she shared. I didn't know what to do with myself. I had spent so many years caring for someone else that I'd almost forgotten what it felt like to just be with myself. At first, she tried to fill the silence with distractions, turning on the TV, scrolling through her phone, or calling friends and family. Yet, something inside her resisted this noise. Over time, she began to lean into the quiet, letting it wash over her, though it felt uncomfortable, even painful, at first. She would sit by her window, watching the day pass, lost in thought. It was in these quiet moments that she began to recall things she once loved, little pieces of herself she had set aside long ago. One memory stood out in particular, her love for gardening. She remembered the satisfaction she felt digging her hands into the soil, nurturing plants, and watching them thrive. In her old house, she'd had a large garden filled with flowers and herbs, but in the busyness of life, she'd let that passion fade. Inspired by this memory, Margaret decided to start small. She bought a few pots of herbs, basil, rosemary, and thyme, and placed them on her windowsill. Every morning, she would tend to them, carefully watering and checking their growth. She marveled at each new leaf, each little sprout that appeared, and felt a glimmer of pride that she hadn't experienced in years. It was like I was nurturing a part of myself, she recalled, something I'd lost touch with a long time ago. Slowly, Margaret added more plants, small flowers, succulents, even a tomato plant. Before she knew it, her little apartment balcony had transformed into a lush, green sanctuary filled with life and color. Margaret's relationship with her plants became symbolic of her journey back to herself. Each plant she tended represented a small step toward reclaiming her own identity and her happiness. She laughs now, calling herself the crazy plant lady, but the truth runs much deeper. In caring for these plants, she was also learning to care for herself. Each morning, she'd wake up excited to see what new growth had taken place overnight. It became a ritual, a moment just for her, a reminder of the life she was building anew. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. This journey wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight. There were days when she felt overwhelmed, lonely, and unsure. She missed her husband deeply, and sometimes the memories were so strong they'd bring her to tears. But instead of running from these feelings, she learned to sit with them, to embrace them as part of her story. She would sit on her balcony, tea in hand, surrounded by her plants, and let herself feel everything. The sadness, the joy, the nostalgia, the pride. It was a time of healing, of deep introspection, and of finding peace in the present. What Margaret discovered was that being alone didn't have to mean being lonely. Through her plants, she had found purpose, connection, and a source of joy. Solitude had allowed her to reconnect with her passions and to find fulfillment in the simplest acts of nurturing life. She realized that she didn't need to fill every moment with noise or people to feel whole. Some of her most cherished moments were the quiet ones spent with her plants, her thoughts, and her memories. Today, Margaret's balcony is a vibrant oasis of greenery, a testament to her journey of self-reclamation. Her eyes light up with pride and contentment when she talks about her little garden, her laughter warm and genuine. "I never thought I'd find such happiness in a few pots of plants," she says with a smile. "But here I am, more at peace than I've been in years." Her story is a powerful reminder to all of us that in solitude, we can find not only ourselves, but also the things that bring true happiness, fulfillment, and peace. In the end, Margaret has taught us that reconnecting with ourselves is a journey, one that takes patience, courage, and self-compassion. It's about letting go of the noise and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, to remember, to feel, and to grow. For Margaret, solitude became a gift that gave her back to herself. As she sits surrounded by her beloved plants, savoring the quiet contentment of her life, she knows that this reconnection, this rediscovery of herself, is the most precious thing she could have ever found. 2. Developing new routines and rituals. Living alone, especially later in life, isn't just about adjusting to a different daily rhythm. It's about rediscovering what truly makes us feel alive, grounded, and at peace. When the usual structures fade, whether it's a bustling family home, a long-standing job, or even the routine of a partner's presence, we're given a new kind of freedom, one that requires us to actively shape our days. This transition, though sometimes challenging, allows us to create our rituals and routines, transforming solitude into an opportunity for self-care and personal growth. Many people who live alone speak of finding comfort in routines that are entirely their own. Take the quiet pleasure of a sunrise. Some cherish the early morning stillness, sitting by a window with a cup of tea, feeling the world gradually awaken around them. Others dive into a practice like yoga, each stretch and breath bringing a sense of calm and control as they connect deeply with themselves. And then some simply sit in silence, embracing the simplicity of just being. These moments of stillness allow them to plan their day with a clear mind and without the rush or noise of others around. Consider John, who spent nearly 40 years in a demanding job, waking up every day at 5 a.m. without fail, barely having time to breathe before the day swallowed him up. Retirement brought him the chance to finally savor his mornings in a way that once seemed impossible. He no longer wakes to the sound of an alarm but lets his body decide when it's ready to start the day. Now, his mornings are unhurried and filled with intention. He rises slowly, pours himself a cup of coffee, and settles into his favorite chair with a newspaper. A simple ritual, but one that he deeply treasures. "It's funny," he says with a hint of wonder, "I'd spent my whole life working hard, yet I'd never given myself the space to just sit and enjoy my coffee. Now, it's my favorite part of the day." John has also created new traditions for himself. Every afternoon, he slips on his walking shoes and goes out for a 20-minute stroll around his neighborhood. This daily walk has become more than just a way to stay active. It's his time to connect with his surroundings and feel the air on his skin, rain or shine. With each step, he notices the small details: a neighbor's freshly planted flowers, the sound of birds, the shifting colors of the sky. These walks, he explains, bring him a sense of rhythm that helps him feel present and alive, grounding him in the simple beauty of his environment. It's funny, he reflects, how little I noticed before. I'm finally seeing my neighborhood in a way I never had time for. Another beautiful example comes from Lily, a widow in her early 70s, who found her evenings especially hard to face after the loss of her husband. Nights once shared and filled with conversation now stretched on quietly, making her feel the weight of her solitude. Seeking comfort, Lily created a ritual that became her sanctuary. Each evening, she prepares a warm bath, lights a few candles, and takes a good book with her to read. This time, surrounded by the soft glow of candlelight and the soothing warmth of the water, became more than a way to unwind. It became a form of self-love and a bridge to a feeling of peace. Lily says, "At first, I felt silly lighting candles just for myself, but then I realized how special it made me feel. That little flicker of light has changed my nights from lonely hours to moments of genuine comfort." Lily's nightly ritual has transformed her evenings into something she genuinely looks forward to, a time of reflection, relaxation, and quiet joy. Her simple act of self-care is a reminder that even small gestures can fill the emptiness, allowing her to end each day feeling nurtured and content. She often reflects that it's in these intimate moments of solitude that she finds strength. This time alone, filled with warmth and calm, has helped her embrace her independence while honoring the memories she holds dear. These stories of John and Lily remind us that living alone doesn't have to be about simply enduring our days. It's about reclaiming them, about choosing what fills our time and nourishes our spirit. Each ritual, whether it's a peaceful morning coffee, an afternoon walk, or a candlelit bath, serves as a reminder of the unique joy that can be found in solitude. When you're no longer rushing for anyone else, when the structure of your day is shaped entirely by your own choices, there's an incredible sense of freedom in being able to create a life that feels meaningful, one that truly fits. Living alone may not be the life everyone chooses, but for those who find themselves in this season, it's an opportunity to build a new way of living, one where every moment is filled with the quiet, reassuring presence of oneself. These routines and rituals help turn ordinary days into extraordinary experiences, teaching us that there is beauty in simplicity and that every small act of care we give ourselves adds up to a life full of purpose, peace, and quiet satisfaction. In solitude, we find not just a chance to know ourselves better, but also the courage to embrace our lives exactly as they are, crafting our days into something profoundly personal and deeply fulfilling. 3. Becoming more self-reliant. Living alone can feel like a vast, uncharted landscape. It requires you to become the sole navigator of your life, responsible for everything from the smallest tasks to life's bigger decisions. For many, this shift happens gradually, but for others, it can arrive suddenly and unexpectedly, with life-changing events that leave them grappling to find a new balance. Self-reliance becomes more than just a necessity. It's a journey of discovering resilience, independence, and a deeper sense of self. Take Arthur, for example, a 68-year-old who never expected to be on his own. After the passing of his beloved wife, he found himself surrounded by memories yet overwhelmed by the silence and responsibilities of life alone. The daily tasks he once took for granted became daunting mountains to climb. He shared his story online, describing how he would stand in the middle of his kitchen, feeling utterly lost and wondering where to even begin. Cooking, for instance, had always been his wife's domain. His role in the kitchen was merely to appreciate her meals, not to prepare them. The idea of cooking anything beyond a piece of toast or scrambled eggs was a foreign and intimidating concept. But in the depths of his grief, Arthur felt a stirring of determination. He turned to YouTube, seeking out the simplest cooking tutorials he could find. His first recipe, an easy pasta dish with a basic tomato sauce, was a humble attempt, but for Arthur, it was nothing short of a victory. He recounted the experience with a mixture of pride and relief, describing how he boiled the pasta, simmered the sauce, and finally plated a meal he had made entirely on his own. When he shared this accomplishment with an online community, he acknowledged it wasn't gourmet by any means, but it was his creation. That small, ordinary bowl of pasta symbolized something extraordinary, a step toward self-sufficiency and reclaiming his life. Encouraged by this success, Arthur began experimenting more in the kitchen. He moved from basic pasta to trying out vegetable stir-fries, roasted chicken, and even a few dessert recipes. Cooking became a form of therapy, a way to fill the space with something tangible, a way to connect with himself in silence. Arthur often jokes now that his wife would be both surprised and delighted by his transformation, and he hopes she would be proud of the efforts he's made. Over time, cooking became more than a task. It was a celebration of his resilience, a reminder that even in his 60s, he could adapt, learn, and thrive on his own. Then there's Joyce, whose journey of self-reliance unfolded in a different but equally transformative way. For most of her life, she had relied on others for the handy aspects of home maintenance. When something broke, she would call for help. But after moving into her own small house, she realized that help wasn't always readily available. Surrounded by her new home's quirks and challenges, she faced tasks that felt foreign and intimidating. A leaky faucet, a clogged drain, a wobbly bookshelf, each problem felt like a reminder of her inexperience. But Joyce, too, found strength in the face of these challenges. Determined not to let these small obstacles defeat her, she turned to online forums, step-by-step tutorials, and any resource she could find. Her first attempt at home maintenance was fixing a dripping faucet, a seemingly simple task that took hours of research and trial and error. But when she finally turned the wrench for the last time and watched as the leak stopped, she felt an incredible surge of pride. This wasn't just about fixing a faucet, it was about proving to herself that she could solve her problems. From that point on, Joyce approached each new task with growing confidence. She learned to unclog sinks, replace light fixtures, and even build her bookshelves from scratch. As she wrote in an online forum, "I never thought I'd be the handy one in the house, but it turns out I'm stronger and more capable than I ever gave myself credit for." Each project brought her a sense of accomplishment, a satisfaction that went beyond the tangible results. It was as if every successful repair or creation was piecing together a part of her identity she hadn't known existed. She was no longer dependent on others for her home's upkeep. She had become its caretaker, its nurturer. For both Arthur and Joyce, the journey to self-reliance has been a path of self-discovery and empowerment. They learned that being self-reliant isn't just about tackling daily chores or fixing what's broken. It's about building a deep and abiding confidence that you can navigate life's challenges, no matter how daunting they may seem. It's about learning to stand on your own 2 feet, finding pride in your independence, and uncovering resilience you didn't know you possessed. Self-reliance, especially later in life, becomes a kind of quiet heroism. It's not just about cooking a meal or fixing a sink. It's about rewriting the narrative of your life, proving that you're capable of adapting, growing, and thriving on your terms. Arthur's bowl of pasta, Joyce's handmade bookshelves, these are more than accomplishments. They are symbols of strength, courage, and the powerful journey of self-reliance. In the solitude of living alone, they found companionship in their newfound skills, pride in their accomplishments, and a deeper understanding of their remarkable strength. And through their stories, they inspire others to embrace the challenge, to believe in themselves, and to find beauty in the power of standing on their own. 4. Rediscovering old hobbies and exploring new interests. Rediscovering old hobbies and exploring new interests can become one of life's most enriching experiences, especially as we age and find ourselves with the time and space that living alone affords. Imagine the beauty of reconnecting with past hobbies that once filled you with joy, or the excitement of trying new pursuits you've long been curious about but never had the chance to explore. Living alone grants a rare freedom to dive into these experiences, not just as a pastime, but as a meaningful journey into self-discovery and renewal. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Consider Carol, a spirited woman in her mid-70s. After decades of putting her career, family, and responsibilities ahead of her interests, she finally found herself at a crossroads upon retirement. She had been married, raised children, and kept a bustling household running smoothly for years. When she began living alone, she was met with an unexpected, almost unsettling silence. It was during these quiet days that memories of her younger self began to resurface, especially her love for painting, a passion she had set aside more than 40 years ago. She found herself daydreaming about those long-lost afternoons she used to spend immersed in colors, canvases, and brushes, losing herself in the joy of creating. With some hesitation and a touch of excitement, Carol decided to start painting again. At first, she felt out of practice, almost a stranger to the easel and paints. But as she mixed her first palette of colors, a familiar thrill started to awaken within her. She signed up for a local art class, bravely stepping into a room filled with younger faces. "They were young enough to be my grandchildren," she laughed in a social media post, but the age difference quickly faded into the background as she became absorbed in her work. With each session, her confidence grew, and soon, she transformed a small corner of her living room into a personal art studio, complete with shelves of paint, brushes of all sizes, and an easel that stood proudly by the window, where sunlight streamed in, illuminating her workspace. Her art journey wasn't merely about producing paintings. It was about rediscovering a part of herself she thought had vanished. For Carol, each brushstroke became a meditative experience, reconnecting her with emotions and memories she hadn't visited in years. Painting became her therapy, her sanctuary, a place where she could express herself without limits. Her walls, once blank, are now filled with her work. Vibrant landscapes, still lives, and abstract pieces that reflect her inner world. The colors and textures tell a story of resilience, joy, and newfound freedom. Carol's journey is a beautiful reminder that it's never too late to revisit old passions, to rekindle that creative flame, and to find fulfillment in pursuits that speak to the deepest parts of who we are. Then there's Bill, a gentle and contemplative 72-year-old man living alone in sunny Florida. After the passing of his beloved wife, he found himself grappling with an immense void. The days felt long, and the silence of his home was almost too much to bear. For weeks, he wandered around his backyard, sitting in his favorite chair under the shade of an old oak tree, just trying to find some peace. One afternoon, however, he noticed something that shifted his perspective: the subtle yet captivating beauty of the birds that flitted in and out of his garden. What started as a simple, almost accidental observation grew into a deep fascination. Bill began noticing the variety of birds, the bright red cardinals, the cheerful blue jays, and the soft-hued sparrows, all moving through his backyard, each with its own personality and quirks. They became a source of comfort, a gentle reminder of life's resilience. He began researching local bird species, learning about their migratory patterns, and even setting up bird feeders and baths to attract more visitors. The simple act of watching these small creatures filled his days with a sense of peace and purpose. He started keeping a journal, documenting each bird he spotted, their unique behaviors, and his thoughts on the quiet joy they brought him. Birdwatching soon became more than just a hobby for Bill. It became a bridge back to himself, a way to channel his grief and find solace in the present moment. Every morning, he would bring out his binoculars, a small notebook, and a cup of coffee, ready for another day of quiet observation. His backyard transformed into a sanctuary where he could sit for hours, feeling connected to nature and, in a way, to his wife, who had also loved the outdoors. Over time, his journals filled with sketches and notes, capturing the beauty of each bird and the sense of calm they brought to his life. His story, like Carol's, is a poignant reminder that healing can come from unexpected places and that even in solitude, we can find beauty, connection, and purpose. The journeys of Carol and Bill illustrate how living alone, especially later in life, can become a powerful time for growth, healing, and rediscovery. Solitude can be a fertile ground for reconnecting with old dreams, honoring cherished memories, and welcoming new passions. Whether through the vibrant colors of a painting or the soft song of a bird, life reveals its richness in these moments, showing us that it's never too late to fill our days with joy, meaning, and the quiet comfort of doing something that truly speaks to our hearts. 5. Building stronger connections with others on your terms. Living alone doesn't mean choosing isolation. It's often a conscious decision to embrace freedom, independence, and self-discovery. For many, this solitude opens the door to richer, more intentional relationships. Without the pressures of constant companionship, living alone allows you to connect with others in ways that feel genuine and purposeful. Instead of scattering time across a wide circle of acquaintances, you gain the ability to build relationships with those who truly enrich your life. This creates space for more profound, fulfilling connections based on mutual respect, shared values, and meaningful interactions. Consider the story of Doris, a resilient woman in her late 60s, who found herself living alone for the first time in decades. Initially, she feared the quiet might feel overwhelming, but over time, she began to see the immense value it offered her relationships. With no one else's routine to consider, Doris realized she could dedicate her energy to the people she cherished most. Instead of being pulled in every direction, she began to reach out more mindfully, making space for those she deeply cared about. Doris started arranging weekly coffee dates with her daughter, something she hadn't done before. These encounters became their special time, quiet mornings filled with laughter, heartfelt discussions, and memories shared. With nothing to distract them, Doris discovered a new closeness with her daughter that she had longed for, but hadn't fully experienced. She says, "I finally feel seen and heard by my daughter in a way that's so fulfilling. We talk about everything now, and it's like we're discovering each other all over again." Similarly, James, a retired school teacher and lifelong introvert, discovered unexpected joy in living alone. Having spent years in a bustling classroom, he had always appreciated his time alone but never truly explored how deeply he valued close friendships. In his newfound solitude, James realized he missed the companionship of others, and rather than filling his days with small talk, he wanted connections that would nourish his soul. He started going to a local senior center, where he met a small group of like-minded friends. Each week, they now come together for game nights, sharing laughter and stories that have quickly become a highlight of his week. James admits that these game nights are not just about the fun. They have brought him a sense of belonging and warmth he didn't know he needed. He reflects, "In those few hours, I'm reminded of the importance of laughter and lightheartedness." It's incredible how a simple game of cards can mean so much when shared with people who genuinely care. Through their stories, both Doris and James illustrate the profound impact of living alone on one's relationships. Without the distraction of constant companionship, living alone allows them to carefully curate their social interactions. Every connection becomes a choice, a decision to spend time with people who genuinely matter. For Doris, it's her daughter, with whom she has found a newfound closeness. For James, it's his friends, who bring laughter and warmth to his life each week. In a society that often equates a full house with happiness, Doris and James remind us of the richness that can come from carefully chosen connections. Living alone doesn't diminish the need for companionship. Instead, it enhances the quality of those relationships by allowing each one to be cherished, valued, and deeply meaningful. Their journeys reveal that it's not about how many people surround us, but the depth of connection we share with those we hold dear. Living alone becomes a way to prioritize self-discovery while also nurturing relationships that truly resonate with joy, purpose, and mutual understanding. 6. Facing loneliness and finding comfort in solitude. Loneliness is a reality many people fear as they grow older, especially when living alone. I used to worry about it too, thinking that the quiet would become too heavy, too empty. But over time, something profound emerged: the distinction between loneliness and solitude. Solitude, I learned, has a unique beauty, offering space for inner peace, reflection, and even healing. A chance to connect deeply with oneself in ways that the noise of life often drowns out. Take Anna, for example. Anna, a widow, shared her heartfelt journey of navigating the quiet that settled in her home after her husband passed. At first, the silence felt overwhelming, like an echo of everything she'd lost. It haunted her days and filled her nights with a kind of aching emptiness. But gradually, Anna discovered a gentle comfort in those quiet moments. She found peace in the small rituals she created for herself, like sitting by her window with a warm cup of tea, watching the sun dip below the horizon. What once felt like an empty silence became a calming presence, and her evening tea became a time for meditation, a sanctuary of calm in an otherwise bustling world. Anna's story reminds us that being alone doesn't always mean feeling lonely. Sure, there are days when the loneliness returns, creeping in unexpectedly. She still misses the familiar laughter and warmth that once filled her home. But she's learned to meet those moments with resilience, reaching out to her sister, walking through her neighborhood, or lending a hand at the local library. Each of these acts, as simple as they may seem, gives her life a new rhythm, filling her days with purpose and connection. Through Anna's journey, we see that loneliness is not a permanent state. It's a feeling that comes and goes, and with time, we can find ways to meet it with grace. Solitude, on the other hand, can be a steady friend, a source of inner strength and peace if we learn to embrace it. So yes, while loneliness is a part of the human experience, it doesn't have to define our lives. Instead, we can choose to fill those quiet moments with purpose, reflection, and the quiet joy of simply being present with ourselves. 7. Creating a space that reflects you. Creating a space that reflects who you are is one of the most profound gifts of living alone. When you have complete control over your environment, your home becomes a personal sanctuary, a true extension of yourself. Countless people have shared that they use this newfound freedom to design a living space that feels unmistakably theirs. A space where every item, color, and arrangement holds personal meaning. Take Paul, for instance, a man in his 60s who rediscovered himself in the process of decorating his home. After his divorce, Paul moved into a modest apartment, facing an empty, unadorned space for the first time in years. Surprisingly, he found himself captivated by the idea of filling it with pieces that spoke to his soul. Although he hadn't paid much attention to decor in the past, Paul now saw his apartment as a blank canvas, ready to be transformed. With care, he filled it with vintage posters of his favorite movies, nostalgic pieces that reminded him of his youth, and filled his bookshelves with well-worn classics. "This is my space," Paul said with pride. "For the first time, I look around, and every corner feels like me." Similarly, Evelyn, a retired nurse, had always dreamed of a home brimming with vibrant colors. Her husband had preferred calm, neutral tones, and out of love, she had always accommodated his preference. But when he passed, Evelyn found herself longing for a transformation. She began to redecorate, adorning the walls with joyful shades of yellow and teal, colors that, as she put it, brought sunshine right into her soul. With each brushstroke, she felt a wave of happiness and a sense of liberation she hadn't anticipated. "It's like I'm finally living in a place that reflects me," she shared, her voice filled with emotion. Evelyn's home now resonates with her spirit, celebrating her individuality with every bright, cheerful hue. Living alone can be an invitation to embrace who you are in your own space, to design your surroundings in ways that resonate with the deepest parts of yourself. It's a journey of self-expression and freedom, allowing you to create not just a home but a place where you truly belong. 8. Practicing mindfulness and gratitude. Living alone opens up an extraordinary opportunity to connect with the present moment, free from the usual noise and distractions that often cloud our minds. Many older adults discover that this time alone gently guides them toward mindfulness, sometimes even without realizing it. Helen, a remarkable woman in her late 70s, shared in an online video how moving into a cozy cottage by herself brought a new dimension of peace and awareness to her daily life. She noticed that her meals became little moments of joy, no longer something to rush through. Every bite became a chance to savor the flavors, a luxury she hadn't given herself when her days were filled with cooking for a family. Tasks she once considered mundane, like watering her plants or folding laundry, transformed into moments of quiet meditation, grounding her in simple, beautiful routines. Similarly, David, a retired teacher, began a ritual of keeping a gratitude journal once he started living on his own. Every evening, he takes a few moments to jot down 3 things he's grateful for. These aren't grand, life-altering events. They're the small joys that so often go unnoticed. The cheerful song of birds outside his window, the warmth of a neighbor's smile, the satisfaction of a well-brewed cup of tea. David shares that this practice has been a powerful balm for his heart, shifting his focus away from the inevitable moments of loneliness and toward the beauty and positivity in his life. He admits that this simple habit has, in many ways, transformed his outlook, allowing him to cherish the quiet, gentle rhythms of his day. Helen and David's experiences beautifully illustrate the hidden gifts that solitude can offer. When we are alone, there's a special kind of freedom to slow down, to truly see, and to fully embrace the present. Living alone creates a sanctuary for reflection, teaching us that life's most precious moments often reside in the simplest, most unassuming acts. Through mindfulness and gratitude, we can find joy, resilience, and deep fulfillment in life's quieter corners, where a sense of peace and appreciation blossoms gently within. 9. Taking charge of health and well-being. Living alone can be a transformative journey in taking charge of one's health and well-being, leading to both physical fitness and emotional growth. For many, like George, a 69-year-old who shared his experience on a health forum, it became a turning point in realizing the importance of self-care. After starting to live alone, George felt an almost overwhelming sense of responsibility for his own health. There was no one to nudge him to exercise, eat right, or get moving. The thought of neglecting his health scared him, and he decided he had to act. He began with something simple, a daily walk around the block. It might have seemed small at first, but that morning walk became a cherished ritual, one that gradually expanded as he gained stamina and confidence. Over time, George joined a local walking group, and now, not only has his physical health improved dramatically, but he's also found a new circle of friends who inspire him every day. Living alone helped him discover a side of himself that was strong, determined, and ready to embrace life in all its beauty. For others, like Monica, who's in her early 70s, living alone opened the door to address mental health in ways she had always postponed. For years, she put herself last, always prioritizing work, family, and caregiving. When she finally found herself alone, it felt like a wake-up call. She knew she had been ignoring her own needs, and she felt the emptiness that had been growing inside her. In this newfound solitude, she realized it was time to focus on her emotional well-being. Monica began seeing a therapist and even started meditating, a practice she had long forgotten. These changes felt monumental. For the first time in years, she was giving herself permission to heal, to grow, to put herself first. She noticed her mood lifting, her outlook brightening, and her resilience growing. Living alone taught her that self-care is far from selfish. It's a vital act of love for oneself. Both George and Monica's journeys remind us that living alone can be an empowering choice, giving us the courage to prioritize our health and discover a strength we might never have known was there. 10. Embracing creativity in cooking and meals. Living alone brings a beautiful, liberating twist to cooking, transforming it from a mere task into a canvas for creativity and self-expression. Without the pressure of catering to others' tastes, cooking becomes a personal journey, an opportunity to explore flavors, colors, and ingredients that speak to the soul. Many older adults have found genuine joy in the kitchen, creating meals just for themselves, savoring the experience without the constraints of anyone else's preferences. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. For Susan, a vibrant woman in her mid-60s, moving into her own space marked the beginning of an exciting culinary adventure. She described how, with no one else's tastes to cater to, she embraced this freedom wholeheartedly, experimenting with bold spices, exotic dishes, and unexpected combinations that she never dared to try before. Each new recipe, each vibrant dish, became a small victory, a testament to her creativity. Now, Susan eagerly anticipates her weekly meal planning, not as a chore but as a delightful ritual that adds color and joy to her life. Frank, a gentle-hearted widower in his 70s, discovered a different yet equally comforting path. Rather than diving into endless recipes, Frank found solace in simplicity. Living alone allowed him to strip away the complexities of meal planning and focus on creating a straightforward, nourishing menu he could rely on. For him, this consistency was a form of peace, a way to care for himself without the fuss. He spoke about his routine with a quiet pride, finding comfort in knowing he was eating well without the daily scramble of figuring out what's for dinner. Each evening, as he prepared his simple meals, Frank felt a sense of accomplishment, a feeling that what once seemed like a tedious task had transformed into a soothing ritual, a reminder that he, too, could care for himself in a way that was meaningful and fulfilling. Through the stories of Susan and Frank, we see how the kitchen can become a sanctuary, a place where creativity or simplicity fills each moment with purpose. Embracing cooking, whether through culinary exploration or mindful routine, is a small yet profound way to connect with oneself, to cherish one's independence, and to savor life's everyday joys. As we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect on these heartwarming stories. What have you learned from Susan and Frank's journeys of finding joy, creativity, and comfort in cooking? Have their experiences inspired you to view your own meals or routines differently? We'd love to hear from you. Comment below with one thing you've learned and plan to bring into practice in your own life. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay connected for more inspiring stories and tips. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.